Hey, so you know me from my page, Myth Mentality, or you just are a friend who follows me. A lot of time I talk about myth, but I actually have a master's in political science, where I focus on economics and sustainability, usually sustainability of urban metabolism systems that make cities work, or society work. But in the economic sense, I try to look at the intersection of urban culture, psychology. Thanks to my mother, who's a psychologist and a great one at that, Dr. Teresa Taylor Williams. Hire her. And I think in some ways it can intersect with what I talk about with myth, right? So what I wanted to kind of speak on is in ancient cultures, most people had a gathering, it was the agora in Greek culture in Athens, or whether it was the amphitheater, which was in Roman and Greek culture, or the Norse had things. It's literally called a thing, when they gather to decide things. In West African culture, storytelling was really important as well. So we would gather around the town wise man or the town storyteller to equivocate the values of old and the values of the culture. And things would be I guess you could say, transpersed throughout the youth and people. Wow, that's a huge cicada. Would be transpersed throughout society in terms of the do's and do nots, right? And the things that maintain the success of each society. A lot of people are afraid today of cultures coming into their own, whether it's in Europe or in some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, or even North Africa, America. Every country seems to have this kind of nativistic fear of the outside. Obviously, when just in terms of just normal math, if you have a comfort zone and something interrupts that, there's going to be trepidation and fear, and there's going to be panic. America has always been good at inculcating different economic structures, whether that's some socialist structures, when you look at policies of FDR and his work programs, or Social Security. Canada is really famous for inculcating eventually Medicare, healthcare for all, which is something that's growing increasingly popular amongst the youth in America to have here. And I think in the cultural sense, economics is driving us away. What's profitable is driving us away from the hearth, right? If you want to look at it in the mythic sense, Hestia is the goddess of the hearth, the home. What's so important about her is that the home and the hearth are supposed to be eternal, lit by a flame. And that flame represents the life, the invigoration, as Joseph Campbell would say, the bliss of the home, right? That you can always return. It's ever constant. But so much today is moving away from a monoculture. And that monoculture, when millennials were kids and teenagers, we had TRL. Everyone would come home and watch TRL. That's the hearth. Everyone would listen to maybe the same 10 to 20 bands, whether that was pop punk or hip hop or new metal. We all circulated around knowing the same things about the same people, about the same ways of life, and the same expressions of what made us teenagers and kids. For adults, boomers and Gen X, they know the same thing, right? Gen X had cultural explosions in the early 90s with hip-hop and grunge. Boomers can remember the first time maybe they heard David Cassidy or Led Zeppelin or Fish or the Grateful Dead. I actually just went to a Fish concert, and that hearth is still strong. But we are driving. What makes social media powerful is that it drives what's profitable, and it drives what we know about what humans want. And it seems like we've been dictated to by social media a sense that we no longer need to like or be wrapped around the same things. And in some ways that's liberating, right? If we're all in our own niche, then the algorithm will feed that niche and we'll be fed. But sometimes when we're full, we don't realize that our diet is either toxic or not diverse enough for us to really be healthy. And in the economic sense, companies don't really care. Companies like Instagram or Facebook or anyone, they just want to drive profit, this is capitalism. I understand that. Profit is king because that's how you stay in business and that's how you appease your shareholders, especially if you are a public company, a traded company. Even if you're a private company, you still have executives, right? So this all implies that the lack of the hearth, the lack of that, is in some ways driving a wedge between people because we don't know each other and we don't know what each other is, what we like. I could refer to going on a date or meeting new friends and not really knowing what to talk about. I used to be able to say, oh, you're wearing this kind of shirt and you're wearing this brand of, I don't know, watch or something like that. That tells me something about you. But nowadays, nothing is really a tell anymore because everything's so foreign. I know for me in my own life, I've always been a person with a lot of varied interests, and my algorithm is quite interesting when I see what the social media brings to me and what it thinks it's going to make money off of me with. On Twitter, I get a lot of kind of how to stretch and how to tie a tie, skill-based kind of things. I guess because on Twitter, I tend to follow or like posts that are about health and wellness, which is great. But then again, on Instagram, I'm getting a different kind of story. On Instagram, I'm getting things that are highly politicized or highly argumentative. Everybody is a talking head these days, arguing some point. And while that can be great if they are erudite and they are knowledgeable in that system, who are the checks anymore to tell you that somebody really knows what they're talking about, right? I could refer you to like the Andrew Tates of the world, where he maybe says 5 platitudes that are really good lessons, but then the way he behaves is a way of a scoundrel and a narcissist, but gains a lot of trust with his audience because he knows how to make platitudes. In the ancient world, we call this sophism, and it's the sophist that is driving culture today, and thus driving economics, and thus driving profit. What do I mean by a sophist? A sophist is someone that Plato and Socrates talk about in their writing. You are a philosopher for pay. You have an agenda. You are not out there, regardless of what you believe, right? I mean, there's Epicureans, there's Stoics at the time, there's different philosophies, there's religious people who believe in the old gods. But whatever you believe, if you believe it earnestly and you're actually trying to convince people of your point because you care and you want them to see the light, that is different. That is not a sophist. A sophist is someone who has an agenda for personal gain and selfish personal gain, usually monetarily. In the classic sense, there would literally be a philosopher for hire, that you could have your personal philosopher who would basically amend anything that you wanted, any perspective, any philosophy, any thought system to fit you specifically. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds like the algorithm. And the algorithm now itself is a sophist because it's not rooted in fundamentals of how we acquire facts and how we write ourselves in history. The algorithm is dictated by someone far off, maybe in some office, who doesn't give 2 shits about you or advancing the human race in a positive way. They care about, for the most part, maintaining their job and taking orders. And I don't blame capitalism for this. I think capitalism has been a wonderful tool to take a lot of the world out of abject poverty. Yes, there have been collisions of cultures. There have been times where, if you look at the anti-capitalist movements in Haiti against the French, and with Toussaint Louverture, that's a great moment of trying to find new ideas, trying to do something different than capitalism, right? Because they were being subjected to the worst aspects of capitalism, which is in its extreme turns to colonialism. When you're just looking at mining profit at the detriment of people's bodies and souls and minds and freedom. But when you look at America as a project, as I learned to do in college, not as the finish line, you really start to realize that America is constantly moving in a position where there's a possibility of us forming a more perfect union. And that is really all the best we can do, I think. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, and people would say, no, we can have utopia. But who's utopia, right? And how do you have a utopia without a hearth, without a monoculture, without some center that we all gather to and discuss ideas, without wanting to harm each other, without being ad hominem, without attacking each other, regardless of how deplorable you may find the belief? That does not mean that we have to have debates where people are literally, like on different channels that you see on TV, attack the person. It's a deflective measure. It's sophism. It's a fake way of being a philosopher. It's a fake way of convincing the audience that, hey, this person sounds intelligent, this person sounds correct. But all in all, the king has no clothes in those situations. I think what's in the future in our economic world is one where sides are becoming more polarized as people are becoming more polarized in interests. Everything seems to be coordinated in that way. It's very interesting how that works, that as more disparate and separated people become in their economic lives, what they spend, what they buy, what they enjoy, what they consume, where they go for vacation, we see this disparation reflected in politics. We see it everywhere. It's as if there's some kind of my dad had a theory. He was a scholar of English, but liked a lot of things about society, study of society, and he would always tell me there's got to be some kind of collective unconscious. He loved Jung, and he loved Joseph Campbell, so he thought maybe in some way the human mind, the humanity itself, is a mind, that we are more hive-minded than we think. Could be true. We could be really connected in that way, and individuation is maybe a myth. That's a deeper discussion we can have. But see, I'm willing to discuss these things. And if somebody came to me and said, I think that there are no individuals, I think we're all just a collective, I would debate that person. And afterwards, I'd shake their hand, and if I really didn't like what they said, if they really angered me, that's my problem. I swallow that. I'm going to be cordial and polite and move on. I know a lot of people are like, no, Viva la Revolution, we have to show them the fight and all these things. Violence doesn't solve anything. It really doesn't. And getting angry is one of the worst things that you can do, and letting anger drive you. You have to let intellect drive you. Be clever. Be smart about things. Lead with your mind. Do not lead with emotion. So that's kind of my 2 cents today. I am going to do more talks on economics and culture, because I think that's an untapped part of what I offer as just someone out here who's been a teacher. I was a professor before, and I like to continue teaching, and I like to continue talking about subjects. And I hope that anyone that follows me knows that even if you think I am wrong or misguided, I am being earnest. I do truly care about increasing the prosperity of the human race. So that's me. I'm Justin A.Williams. You can catch me on my YouTube channel, Myth Mentality. Do subscribe, smash that like button. You can also follow me here on Instagram. And enjoy your day. And as we say in my company, Policy Titans, we do grants. Balance is endurance. Join the mountaintop.